What's up, guys? We're about to jump into chapter 17, but first, Riley the Reading Dragon would like to say good morning. All right, I actually got a piece of his shedded skin out of his cage so that I can maybe bring it close for you guys to see if I can get my phone to stay still. But I don't know if you guys can see this clear, but we have a piece of his shedded skin, and I just thought that was so cool. All right. Let's jump into chapter 17. Let me get a drink of water. All right, you got your reading, buddy? Let's jump in. Eddie scooted down the desk leg, quivering with excitement. The thought of his next word made him tingle. Would this blueberry still be waiting under his desk? It was. It looked different. The dusty air had shriveled the berry's surface. It tasted okay when he nibbled, but it wasn't nearly as juicy. Eddie had to chew really hard to get a good part. He chomped off the best bit he could find and carried it up to the drawer. Have some, he said to Aunt Min. She took a few bites, then stepped back. You'll need the rest for your message. But you've hardly touched it. I'm fine, dear. Go ahead. So Eddie got to work, soaking his front feet. It took longer to wet them this time, and longer to write the letter. Aunt Min had noticed his discouragement. Do you know what this reminds me of, Eddie? Charlotte's Web? I heard the librarian read it to the third grade. It's about a spider who wrote messages, just like you. Well, not exactly like you, of course, with your blueberry juice. Charlotte spun words in her spider web. That sounds hard, said Eddie. I imagine it was very hard. She was trying to save a pig named Wilbur. I remember one of the words she wrote. Radiant. What's radiant? It means shining or glowing, just like you, Eddie, with your green body. Really? Eddie tried the word out in his head. Radiant. I like it. So what happened to Wilbur? Did Charlotte save him? I don't know, said Min. One of the saddest moments of my life was when the librarian told her children to read the rest of the book on their own. Oh, said Eddie. Sorry. Never mind, said Min. Here's what I do know. Charlotte's Web was written by the same squisher who wrote the book you love, about the mouse. The one you read on the carpet, Stuart Little. The author's name is E.B. White. I'm a fan, said Eddie. I had heard children say that in room 19. Aunt Min laughed. Me too. With E.B. White for inspiration, Eddie returned to his task with fresh energy. When the cleaner arrived, Eddie barely paused, ignoring the fearsome roar of the vacuum. He wrote on. And finally, there it was, his second word. Save. Well done, said Min, staring at the sticky. I like that word a lot. Where did you want to put it? Well, now that you reminded me about Stuart, what a wonderful idea, said Min. Yes, put it on Stuart Little. You'll find it on the W shelf, W for white. If you hurry, you can get there before dark. Eddie meant to hurry, but he got distracted by the posters. The Visher had put up new ones that afternoon. Like the sign that says free food zone, they had no pictures, just big letters. The first had only a single word, quiet. The next poster made him stop and think. Work harder today than yesterday. Huh, said Eddie. It wasn't that he disagreed, but he did think that, in the long run, it might be difficult to keep that up. The third poster baffled him entirely. The helping hand you need is at the end of your own arm. Huh, said Eddie again. He read it several times. Then he shrugged. Maybe you needed hands to understand. W shelf for novels wasn't easy to find. It was on the bottom of the end of the dark row. By the time Eddie got there, the light was fading. Looking around, he felt disappointed. This spot didn't look nearly important enough for someone like E.B. White. As he pondered the unfairness of this placement, the library suddenly grew darker. Sunset, thought Eddie. Oh no! he had dawdled too long, peering anxiously at the books. He saw that most of the titles were impossible to read. Nincompoop, he muttered. After all this trouble, would he have to take the saved Sticky home? Then, in the next instant, he realized he didn't have to see the book at all. Tuna! He exclaimed as he closed in on Stuart Little. His antennae wiggled in recognition. There was no mistaking that fishy aroma. He paused to remember his first happy encounter with the book. The rolling, the reading, the turning of the page, and the oily tuna fish stain on the paper. It was like meeting an old friend. Lucky for me, tuna smells so strong, thought Eddie. Once again, it took some serious wrestling to get the sticky off his back onto the book. He kept getting parts of his own body, a foot, an antennae, stuck where they weren't supposed to be. When the sticky was in place, he gave the novel a pat. There you go, Stuart, he said. Aunt Mem was asleep on her cotton ball when he returned. He crept in quietly. Nestling into the corner he had claimed for himself, he tried to doze off. But tired as he was, he kept jerking awake. In his dreams, he saw huge, outstretched fingers. A terrible voice yelled again and again, "Bug!" as the thwacks rained down all around. He woke up to find that his legs were moving, running. Eddie was actually running in his sleep. Aunt Mem was fascinated by dreams. To her, they were middle-of-the-night stories. So, of course, she wanted to hear all the details of Eddie's dream the next morning. He was just getting to the thwack part when he was interrupted by a loud gasp. It was coming from the bookshelves. Eddie and Min stared at each other. The Visher. Again, she had caught them off guard. How long had she been wandering the library while they didn't even know she was here? "What the?" she said. "What?" "She's found it," whispered Min. "Your new sticky." Suddenly, with the kabang of the door, the Visher rushed out of the library. She returned moments later with the principal. "I don't understand, Miss Vish," said Mr. Steeman. "What's the problem?" "Right over here," said the Visher tightly. I left it exactly where I found it. It's evidence. Do you see? Down there with the W books. "Oh," said the principal after a pause. "Gosh, another sticky." "Exactly. And what are you going to do about it?" The principal took a moment to answer. "It just says save," he replied. "I mean, it's harmless, isn't it?" "Harmless? Harmless? How did it get here?" "That's what I want to know. Who's doing this? I locked the library door. I'm positive I did. I left late yesterday and I came in early today. No children would have been in this room, Mr. Steeman. Is this a practical joke? Is this the cleaning staff?" "Certainly not," said the principal. "Mr. Iverson has been cleaning this school for 20 years. He's totally reliable. And not the joking kind, I assure you." There was a long silence. Eddie and Min stared at each other. "Do you have any enemies?" asked the principal. "From another school, perhaps?" "Enemies?" cried the Visher. "What are you talking about?" "Just a thought," said the principal quickly. "I'm sorry, Miss Vish, but it does seem like a small thing to get upset." "It may be small to you," said the Visher, "but if you were the one getting threatening notes..." "Oh, surely not threatening." "Threatening," repeated the Visher. "I want you to do something about this. I want you to find the perpetrator and..." Now, said the principal. "We'll look into it. Why don't you come to the teacher's room and sit down? I believe I saw some soothing herbal tea." "Tea?" snapped the Visher. "Are you seriously suggesting tea?" "Mr. Steeman, I will not be ignored. Kindly find out where these notes are coming from." "Yes, of course," said the principal. There were more sympathetic mumblings as he and Miss Vish left the library. "Well, I'll be a cross-eyed cockroach," said Aunt Min. "Did you ever hear such a fuss? Eddie shook his head. Oh, Aunt Min, this is terrible. She doesn't understand at all. She certainly doesn't. But I want her to understand. I must have written it wrong. You didn't do anything wrong, said Min. You just haven't finished it yet. And honestly, anyone who gets so tumble-tangled over a couple of stickies, well, there's just no talking to her. But I have to talk to her. I want to reach, I know, her soft spot. But what if she doesn't have a soft spot, Eddie? What if you thought about that? Or have you thought about that? What if she just won't listen? Eddie thought for a moment before he answered. I guess it doesn't matter. I still have to try. Looking at his aunt, he could see that she wasn't convinced. Where did I go? It's like Stuart Little, he said. Stuart went down a drain, Aunt Min, to get his mother's ring. A library's more important than a ring, isn't it? Min's face softened, the gaze longing through the drawer opening. Well, said Eddie. She sighed. You got me there, Eddie. You're absolutely right. Yes, you must finish your message. You must try as hard as you can with your sticky campaign. I'll help you in any way I can. Thank you, said Eddie. And now, said Min, I hope, there will be a treat for us. 4th grade should be coming next. Our very own class from room 19. Really? Said Eddie. For real? Yes, it's their library time. All right, guys. Now we are moving on to chapter 18 tomorrow, so come back and be ready to dive into our book. See you later.